You wake up before the sun, not because you want to. The Nile decides your schedule. You are a merchant in Thebes. Year is 1300 BCE, Ramesside, Egypt. Your job? Moving goods upriver. Grain, linen, pottery, beer, oils. No coins exist yet in Egypt. Everything runs on barter and weight. This was daily life for thousands. Let's follow one man's entire day. Egyptologist Barry Kemp studied this exact economy. He found merchants called shawty everywhere. Temple records list their transactions constantly. Your first stop is the granary. You check yesterday's grain deliveries. A scribe records every single sack. Deir el-Medina records survive from this period. They show exact wages paid in grain. A worker earned about 4 sacks monthly. That's roughly 150 liters of emmer wheat. You load your boat before sunrise light. Your crew is 3 hired rowers. They work for a share of profit. No wages guaranteed, only successful trips. Fair question. How did trade even work? Egypt used a system called deben. A deben measured copper weight, not coin. Goods were priced against this fixed unit. 1 deben equaled about 91 grams. Prices were shockingly consistent for centuries. Historian Janet Johnson documented these price lists. A goat cost roughly 2 deben. A decent bed cost 20 deben. You carry no metal, only goods. Barter meant carrying tradable value physically. Today's cargo, 40 jars of beer. Beer was practically Egyptian currency itself. Everyone drank it. Workers included daily. It was thick, more porridge than drink. You push off from the dock. The Nile current does half the work. Sailing south, you use the wind instead. Egyptians called this going downstream or up. Wind blows north to south, conveniently. Current flows north, wind flows south. Nature built you a 2-way highway. You pass fishermen casting nets. You pass women washing linen at the bank. Farmers already work the flooded fields. The Nile flooded every single summer. This flood deposited fertile black silt. Egyptians called their land Kemet, black land. Without this flood, no civilization exists here. You dock at a riverside market town. Merchants shout, comparing goods and weights. A potter wants beer for his jars. You negotiate the exchange rate carefully. 10 jars of beer for 6 pots. Both sides walk away feeling they won. This happened at every stop, every day. Quick reminder before we continue this journey. Like this video and subscribe to the channel. Now, back to the Nile and our merchant. Midday sun forces everyone to slow down. You dock again, seeking shade for lunch. Lunch is bread, onions, dried fish. Bread was the true staple of Egypt. Workers ate bread with nearly every meal. Archaeologists found over 40 bread types. Some breads were shaped like animals. Onions were believed to have protective power. Tomb paintings show onions in burial offerings. Your crew eats fast, no leisure yet. There's still half a day of river left. You check the boat for damage. Reed boats needed constant small repairs. Wood was scarce and imported at high cost. Lebanon cedar came through trade with Byblos. Common boats used papyrus reed bundles instead. Your own boat is a mix of both. You push off again toward the next town. Here's the key part most people miss. Merchants like you didn't own these goods. You worked for temples or wealthy officials. Temples controlled enormous shares of Egypt's economy. The Temple of Amun owned vast farmland. Historian Christopher Eyre calculated its massive holdings. You are essentially a contracted delivery agent. Profit above quota, you sometimes kept. Fall short of quota, punishment could follow. Tomb inscriptions describe beatings for shortfalls. The pressure to deliver was constant and real. Still, merchants held real social status. You traveled, you saw the wider world. Most Egyptians never left their home village. You had stories, connections, useful information. Mid-afternoon, you reach a larger port city. This could be ancient Elephantine or Coptos. These cities were serious trading hubs. Nubian gold arrived through southern trade routes. Incense came from Punt, far to the south. Queen Hatshepsut famously sponsored a Punt expedition. That journey happened around 1470 BCE. Reliefs at her temple depict the entire trip. You're not that important, but you're connected. You sell 4 jars of beer here. You buy copper tools for the return trip. Copper came mainly from Sinai mining expeditions. Turquoise mines operated in that same region. Workers there faced brutal desert conditions. You negotiate one more trade, cloth for oil. Linen was Egypt's most exported textile. Fine linen rivaled silk in later reputation. Workers wove it from flax plants. Flax grew easily along the flooded riverbanks. By late afternoon, your cargo has changed completely. Beer and grain became copper, oil, and cloth. This is the entire merchant profession, summarized. Convert value, move it, convert it again. You head back toward Thebes before dark. Night travel on the Nile was dangerous. Crocodiles and hippos made the river deadly. Hippos capsized more boats than storms did. You aim to reach a known village by dusk. Local villagers offer shelter for traveling merchants. This exchange runs on reputation, not payment. You've stopped here before, they know your name. Trust networks stretched along the entire river. Break trust once, and no town helps you again. You unload part of your cargo here too. A small trade for eggs and fresh bread. Dinner tonight is simple but filling. Lentil stew was extremely common across Egypt. Protein mostly came from fish, not meat. Meat was reserved mostly for festivals. You sit with your crew around a fire. Conversation turns from work to gossip. Who married whom? Who cheated on a trade? Rumors traveled the river faster than boats. You are, in a sense, also a messenger. News from Thebes reaches this village through you. This mattered more than people realize today. No newspapers, no post, only traveling people. Religious festivals depended on this river network. The Opet festival required massive coordination. Priests moved statues of Amun by river barge. Merchants like you helped supply these events. Your beer, your grain, fed festival crowds. It connected ordinary trade to sacred life. Nothing in Egypt stayed purely economic. Religion touched every single transaction somehow. You finish dinner as stars appear overhead. Egyptians tracked time using star positions. The star Sirius predicted the coming flood. Its rise marked the Egyptian New Year. You sleep on deck under open sky. No tent, just a woven mat and blanket. Mosquitoes are a constant, miserable problem. Egyptians used mosquito nets when they could afford them. You can't afford one, so you endure it. Before sleep, you review tomorrow's planned stops. 3 more villages before reaching home port, then a full week before the next journey. Merchants didn't travel constantly. Trips were seasonal. The flood season made river travel easiest. During low water, sandbars blocked many routes. You planned your entire year around the river's mood. Morning comes fast, the sun is unforgiving. You wake stiff from sleeping on wood. Breakfast is leftover bread and diluted beer. Beer was safer to drink than raw river water. Fermentation killed off many harmful pathogens. This wasn't understood scientifically, just observed. You untie the boat and continue north. Today's route passes through farming communities. Farmers here owe grain taxes to the state. Tax collectors measured fields using rope and stakes. This practice literally birthed early geometry. Egyptian rope stretchers inspired later Greek mathematics. You watch scribes record every measured field. Literacy was rare, maybe 1% of people. Scribes held serious power because of this skill. You yourself can read basic trade symbols only. Full literacy would take years of temple schooling. You never had that chance growing up. Your father was a merchant. So are you. Professions in Egypt often passed through families. Sons frequently inherited both trade and clients. This wasn't a strict rule, but a common pattern. Mid-morning, you reach a stone quarry town. Workers cut limestone for temple construction projects. You deliver beer rations directly to the crew. Beer rations were part of official worker payment. The Deir el-Medina strike of 1157 BCE proves this. Workers walked out when rations arrived late. This is considered history's first recorded labor strike. Egyptologist Jaroslav Cerny translated these original records. Workers even complained directly to officials in writing. This wasn't a silent, obedient society at all. People argued for fair treatment, loudly and often. You finish deliveries and collect quarry payment. Stone offcuts sometimes served as trade goods too. Nothing here goes to waste. Everything holds value. Midday sun again, you seek shade to rest. Egyptians structured work around heat, not clocks. Intense labor happened morning and late afternoon. Midday belonged to rest, shade, and quiet. You use this break to repair torn rope. Rope was made from papyrus fiber, twisted tightly. This same fiber made paper, baskets, sandals, boats. Papyrus plants grew wild along the marshy delta. It was practically Egypt's plastic, used for everything. Afternoon arrives, you push toward the final stretch. Thebes appears faintly on the horizon now. The Karnak temple complex dominates the skyline. It was, at the time, the largest religious site on Earth. You've delivered goods here for over a decade. Familiar faces greet you at the final dock. You unload the remaining cargo systematically. A scribe tallies everything against the morning's records. Numbers must match. Discrepancies mean real trouble. Corruption existed, and punishments could be severe. Tomb records describe officials removed for theft. You've stayed honest. Your reputation depends on it. Today's trip nets you a modest profit margin. Not wealth, but enough to support a household. You have a wife and likely several children. Egyptian women held notably strong legal rights. They could own property and initiate divorce. This surprised even later Greek and Roman visitors. Your wife might manage household finances directly. She could also run her own small trade. Textile production was often women's dominant work. You head home through narrow mud brick streets. Thebes buzzes even in early evening hours. Vendors sell food, tools, amulets, small trinkets. A woman sells fresh dates from a woven basket. Children run between stalls, chasing each other. Dogs and cats wander freely through the streets. Cats held near sacred status in Egyptian culture. Harming one could bring serious legal punishment. You finally reach your own small home. Your wife greets you at the doorway. She's prepared dinner from the day's own trade. Vegetables, bread, and a small portion of fish. You sit on the floor. There's little furniture. Most homes used simple stools, low tables. Wealth was shown through goods, not furniture size. After dinner, you review the day's total earnings. You separate temple dues from personal profit. Taxes here weren't paid in coin, but in goods. A portion of every trip belonged to the state. This funded temples, monuments, and grain reserves. Grain reserves protected against future bad floods. A weak flood meant famine risk for everyone. The state storage system prevented total disaster. You understand your small trade feeds this system. Every jar, every sack, part of something larger. Your children ask about the journey today. You tell them about hippos in the market towns. Storytelling was entertainment, information, and bonding. There was no writing for most common families. Oral tradition carried practical knowledge forward. Your son wants to become a merchant too. You'll start teaching him the river routes soon. Apprenticeship, not schooling, trained most working skills. By 8 or 9, children already worked regularly. Childhood as pure leisure simply didn't exist yet. Still, children played games in their free time. Archaeologists found dolls, board games, spinning tops. Senet was Egypt's most popular board game. Even pharaohs were buried with Senet game sets. Evening settles, oil lamps get lit inside. Light was expensive, so evenings ended early. Most families slept shortly after full darkness fell. Your body still runs on the sun's schedule. Tomorrow brings another short trip downriver. This rhythm repeated for your entire working life. Trip, trade, deliver, rest, repeat, season after season. Historians estimate merchants like you numbered thousands. Egypt's economy depended entirely on this network. No merchants meant no temple supplies, no festivals. No festivals meant a fractured religious society. Your unglamorous job held civilization together quietly. Now, let's zoom out and see the bigger picture. This barter economy lasted almost 2,000 years. Coined money didn't fully arrive until Persian rule. That's around 525 BCE, centuries after your lifetime. Your entire economic world used weight and trust. Deben weights, barter goods, reputation, temple oversight. It worked because communities were small and interconnected. Everyone eventually knew everyone along the river. Cheating someone meant cheating your entire future. This self-policing system needed little formal law. Formal courts existed, but mainly for serious disputes. Most trade disputes settled through community pressure. Written contracts existed too for larger transactions. Egyptologist Christopher Eyre translated dozens of these. They read remarkably close to modern legal agreements. Terms, witnesses, penalties for broken agreements. Some things about commerce never really change. You are, in every practical sense, a small businessman. No corporation, no office, just a boat and goods. Your margins are thin. Your risks are real. Storms, theft, bad trades, all constant threats. Yet you keep doing this year after year because the alternative was subsistence farming, harder still. Farmers faced flood failures, locust swarms, tax burden. Trading offered slightly more control over your fate. Not freedom exactly, but a different kind of risk. This is worth remembering about ancient economies broadly. People weren't passive victims of history's current. They made calculated choices within tight constraints. You chose trade because your father chose trade, but also because you were decent at negotiating. Skill mattered even in a rigid, traditional society. Some merchants grew genuinely wealthy from this work. Tomb inscriptions of successful traders survive today. One merchant, Sennefer, left records of significant wealth. Most, like you, stayed comfortably middle class instead. Comfortable meant enough food, a home, security. It did not mean luxury or significant leisure. Your leisure exists in small pockets, evenings mostly. Festivals offered the real breaks from routine. Egypt had dozens of religious festivals yearly. The beautiful festival of the valley was major. Families crossed the Nile to visit ancestor tombs. These days were feasting, drinking, remembering the dead. You looked forward to these breaks intensely. They marked time as much as seasons did. Let's fast forward through a full year now. Flood season, you traveled constantly, high demand. Growing season, trade slowed, fields needed workers. Harvest season, trade surged again, goods everywhere. This cycle repeated every year of your life. Predictable, but never easy, never fully secure. You'll likely work this river until old age. Retirement, in the modern sense, didn't really exist. Elders often shifted to lighter advisory roles instead. Your son will eventually take over the routes. The boat itself might last several generations, repaired constantly, rarely fully replaced. This is the reality behind Egypt's famous monuments. Pyramids and temples get all the attention. But merchants like you fed the builders daily. Without trade networks, no monument gets finished. Grain, beer, tools, all moved by river trade. History remembers pharaohs, rarely remembers merchants. Yet the system needed both equally to function. Your name won't survive in any history book, but your labor is written into every monument indirectly. Every stone moved, every worker fed, connects back to boats like yours, moving quietly along the Nile. So what does this tell us about ancient life broadly? It wasn't simple, it wasn't primitive, it was systematic. Economies functioned through trust, weight, and repetition. People specialized, negotiated, planned across entire seasons. Modern commerce still runs on remarkably similar logic. Supply chains, trust networks, seasonal demand shifts. 3,000 years apart, the core patterns persist. You wake up, you move goods, you come home. Millions of people still live this basic pattern, just with different tools, different rivers, different names. Your merchant's day ends where it began, quietly. No fanfare, no monument, just tomorrow's early departure. The Nile keeps flowing, indifferent to any single life. But it carried this entire civilization for millennia. One merchant's small trip, repeated by thousands more, built an economy that outlasted most empires in history. That's the real story behind ancient Egypt's grandeur. Not just kings and gods, but ordinary daily trade. Small boats, small trades, carrying an entire world forward.